Moderate Democrats prepare for war against an ascendant left. One moderate group says the progressive winds are deeply troubling. They're planning a $15 million effort against democratic socialism. So let's talk about this, because what exactly are they going to war against? What exactly are they so afraid of? This big moderate push is in response to Abdul El Sayed's win in the Michigan Senate primary race. And he ran on three things: getting corporate money out of politics, ending government spending on foreign wars and genocide to spend it on social services for Americans, and Medicare for all, universal health care. So that's what we're talking about. That's what we're so afraid of. And here's the thing that's so crazy to me. All three of those things are broadly popular, not just among Democrat voters, but among Americans. There is nothing moderate about opposing campaign finance laws to get corporate money out of politics. In fact, 3 out of 4 Americans, including 84% of Democrats, agree that wealthy donors and corporations' influence over politics has caused them to lose faith in their democracy.
Yep. That is creator Brian Recker. And the move that he's referring to is this article in the New York Times. Hi, my name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. This article, Moderate Democrats prepare for war against an ascendant left. One moderate group says the progressive winds are, quote, deeply troubling, and is planning a $15 million effort against democratic socialism. It's a take by the centrist, read Republican, by another name, think tank Third Way, which is devoting $15 million to target the Democratic Socialist America movement. And Jonathan Cowan, Third Way's president, believes that the DSA poses a, quote, mortal danger for Democrats. I mean, come on. Okay, now why is that? Is it, as Covey posted, because El Sayed says, I want to make healthcare, groceries, and gas more affordable, get rid of data centers, remove corporate money from politics, and tax the rich? Republicans. El Sayed is Muslim. Or, as Boots Jim says, who would like to take credit for being a leader of the Democratic Party when women lost their reproductive rights and a nakedly fascist party cult took complete control of the federal government? Excellent point. And then GL Presley on Democrats says, man, I don't know. Maybe the centrist Democratic leaders who have managed to lose every branch of government to a pedophile con artist and his fascist supporters aren't the right people to lecture anyone on how to win elections. Amen to that. And then goes on to say, this isn't even necessarily an endorsement of the DSA, who seem to be nothing more than New Deal Democrats, the most popular the Dems have been in a century. It's more saying that we shouldn't listen to the consultant class who would rather stay in charge of a minority party than actually winning on a national stage. And a consultant class would be something like that think tank Third Way. And then CRF Sanders says, left-wing candidate. I'm a democratic socialist, like you see in Scandinavia. Right-wing candidate. I'm a literal fascist, and I voted to build actual concentration camps on American soil in 2026. Centrist Democrats. I guess I'll have to vote Republican this year.
What exactly are they going to war against? What exactly are they so afraid of? This big moderate push is in response to Abdul El Sayed's win in the Michigan Senate primary race. And he ran on three things: getting corporate money out of politics, ending government spending on foreign wars and genocide to spend it on social services for Americans, and Medicare for all, universal health care. So that's what we're talking about. That's what we're so afraid of. And here's the thing that's so crazy to me. All three of those things are broadly popular. And of course, moderates' most fearful boogeyman of all, Medicare for all, something supported by 78% of Democrats and 65% of overall voters. And yet somehow moderates think that this is a radical left position. What's very clear to me is that this has nothing to do with being moderate. This has nothing to do with their political values. This has everything to do with them wanting to maintain hold on power.
Ding, 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 ding. In fact, when I chatted with Dr. Abdul El Sayed a couple of months ago, we actually discussed this congressional blockage of universal health care.
Ungodly sums of money right at the moment where public decisions are made to mis and disinform the public about what's going to happen, in ways that create astroturfed movements that pressure politicians not to do the thing that the broad majority of the public wants. In poll after poll after poll after poll, people want government healthcare. They want it, right? They want it. Now, there are some people who don't. Of course, there's going to be diversity, but the vast majority of the public wants it. And the problem is just getting worse for most people. But then what happens is, you lived through the ACA fight. You end up having these astroturfed movements of people where big corporations spent a ton of money to gin up a bunch of noise around protecting their interests. And that system is what corrupts us and leaves us in positions where we are misappropriating our money. We are failing to provide the resources people need.
Now, why would anyone say, I don't want universal health care? Well, that's because they have been brainwashed, propagandized by the billion-dollar corporate-owned right-wing media machine to think that not having to go broke on medical care is a bad thing. I mean, as many of you know, I am a cancer survivor. I have gone through multiple treatments over the past 3 years. I see doctors all the time for a myriad of reasons. And without health insurance, I would be destitute and living on the streets and possibly dead. Okay. So not having universal health care, which is something that every other Western nation in the world has, is a crazy way of thinking. I recently saw a clip of a MAGA supporter saying, I don't want it. I don't want it. And I'm like, you don't want it until you are diagnosed with cancer or some other serious illness, like even just a broken arm, which I had a year ago. It's an astronomical cost when you go to the emergency room. Like, it's crazy that we've been brainwashed to think that universal health care is a bad thing. And then there's the other big boogeyman that the legacy media and frankly, some independent outlets even won't stop pushing.
Clarify for us what your position is on funding for Israel if you do become a U.S. Senator. Are you opposed to all funding for Israel, period, military funding?
I'm opposed to unconditional military aid for any country. That is Israel, yes, but that's also Egypt, where my family immigrated from. That's Pakistan, that's Saudi Arabia, that's UAE. And that's not because of a focus on what's happening anywhere except for a focus on what's happening here. We've got communities in my state where the median income is $14,000, and I believe they have a right to their tax dollars. I also believe in international law and upholding international law, and there are Leahy laws against dealing arms to countries who are engaged in human rights abuses. And I don't want to fund a foreign military that does genocide, apartheid, or has taken us to a war we don't need to fight.
Do you believe Israel has a right to exist?
So, Casey, AIPAC's become a big issue in this election because AIPAC's already spent $30 million in this election. They're by far the biggest spender in the race. Now, the question about a right to exist, it's interesting because nobody's ever asked me whether or not I believe Palestine has a right to exist. Every single president who served has said that they believe in a two-state solution. Israel exists. The question is whether or not we want a politics where our money is sent over to Israel to do genocide and apartheid instead of investing in our own kids.
You say it exists, but does it have a right to?
This is ridiculous that mainstream media and so many other outlets are constantly talking about a foreign country as being the most important focus of their coverage is insanity. My grandparents and greats came from Ireland and Finland. How come CNN and Fox and NBC and CBS aren't asking people, do you believe that the Celtic nations have a right to exist? Huh? What about Scandinavia? Do you believe Scandinavia has a right to exist? Like, this is insane. Americans are done with Israel, which is objectively committing multiple genocides by and large. Just look at the polls. And once again, the establishment, obviously, I'm not talking about the Republicans because we know where they are, but the establishment Dems and the people in power refuse to listen to the will of the people.
The same is true for continuing to support Israel's war. Only 8% of registered Democrats approve of Israel's military campaign, and 3/4 of Democrat voters oppose sending any more aid, economic or military, to Israel. I mean, you can pour money into trying to convince people otherwise, but AIPAC just tried that, spending over $30 million on Haley Stevens' campaign, and it didn't work. And very clear to me is that this has nothing to do with being moderate. This has nothing to do with their political values. This has everything to do with them wanting to maintain hold on power. They want to protect their own money and interest, even if it is in direct opposition to the will of the people. They can call this moderate because it's the status quo, but there has been nothing moderate about our status quo. The status quo in this country has favored the wealthy elites, and we're over it.
Yeah, Americans are over it. The people are over it. That is why $63 million of pro-Israel lobbyist money still wasn't enough to defeat Dr. Abdul El Sayed's movement in Michigan, which is money out of politics, money in your pocket, and Medicare or universal care for all. And even establishment Democrats like Gretchen Whitmer and Haley Stevens herself said, okay, peace, like truce, let's get on board with team democracy. And that's the way everybody in the Democratic Party, if we are serious about defeating the aggressive fascism that is running America right now, should behave. So to see the continuation of attacks against progressives like Abdul, obviously, Oliver Larkin, who's in Florida, who's running against pro-Israel candidate or incumbent Jared Moskowitz, and so many others is crazy to me. I want somebody like Dr. Abdul in Congress because I know he's going to demand accountability for the insane amount of corruption, the stealing of our money and our resources by the Trump regime, when Republicans who have control of all branches of our government and even the Supreme Court, they're controlling that, say, sorry, there's nothing we can do to rein Trump in, which is a cop-out because they are compliant, they are fascists. Republicans are a party that is fully corrupt and criminal, full stop. They should never, ever, ever be in power again after what we have witnessed, the destruction that they have committed over the past 40, 50 years that has now resulted in a fascist takeover of the American government. But we also have some trash in the Democratic Party that needs to be taken out. And if you saw what happened in Tennessee last night and across Michigan the other day, well, I hope that gives you some hope. It certainly did me because I'm in Virginia where we have the establishment, candidates on the Democrat side, pretty much, they won most of their primaries. And that was very disappointing to me. But there is a growing movement. And it's not progressive to say that we want money, dark money out of politics, making decisions that defeat what we, the American people, want. Universal health care, clean air and water when our planet is on fire, when the Trump regime is bulldozing 200-year-old cottonwoods in my home state of Arizona and destroying, the environment. There needs to be regulation and accountability. I mean, that is not a radical thing to say. What's radical is that we have this horrible criminal in office who is just robbing us blind. So that's all I got today. I do see some green sprouts of hope, and I hope you do too. All right, peace.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.